So hi everyone, pleasure to meet you. Um, I'm going to be talking about usability testing today, and specifically a little bit about how it works. Uh, is it for PMs? Is it for designers? For researchers? And lastly, we'll end the call or the last third of the call with our own experience while building Betafy. So we are building a new company. We've been building it over the past 2 years, and Betafy has really benefited from usability testing ourselves. So I'll be sharing some of those stories as well. So the first part of the call would be about what is usability testing and is it really for PMs? The second part would be about like this myth around usability testing being a very time consuming process. And also sharing some tips on what you can do to do it a little bit more effectively. And the last part would be just the learnings from Betafy. So as we are going through this, anytime you have any question, feel free to drop it in the chat. And then Patrick, feel free to ask me or interrupt me. We can make it interactive as we go. Yeah. So before we start, a little bit about myself. So I'm originally from India, in Delhi, but I've been in Singapore for the last 15 years. So I moved to high school in Singapore and did high school as well as college in NUS. And I spent a year in US in the University of Pennsylvania and interning at a startup. After that, I was working in Singtel, which is a telecommunication company in Singapore for the last 5 years across two different roles. Initially, I was in operations to digitize the service experience. So there I was building products for like call center agents. And then in the second role, I was building a new sub-brand for Singtel called Gomo. So if some of you are young and you're familiar with Bayu in Singapore, in Indonesia, which is Telkomsel's sub-brand, so Gomo and Bayu are like brother, sister, etc. So very similar brand in Singapore. So Gomo started like a side project, which me and a couple of folks started from scratch, but even before it was official. And as I was building Gomo, when the project was very new, we used to do a bunch of hacky usability testing and get that feedback and channel that feedback into building the product. And it was great. So after about 5 years in Singtel, I left and during COVID thought about my life and thought, hey, there should be a way to make user feedback a core part of the product process. So I saw that in my own experience in 5 years, a lot of success for the products I was working on um, came out of uh, inculcating feedback into the process, but it was not the case for all the other tools out there. So that's why we're building Betafy we think of ourselves as providing you a superpower in making user feedback a core part of the process. So I started working on it last year, and my co-founder is an American dude who's the CTO, and he used to work at Stripe. And currently, we are an 11-member team who's spread across India and Singapore and Indonesia and Cambodia. Outside of work, I am fairly passionate about like user feedback, as well as building new products. I gulp down a lot of Twitter news on product info, as well as I do a lot of goalkeeping in a lot of different sports. Not relevant to the story today, but yeah, just wanted to share that. Yeah, cool. So let's start with a big picture, right? What is usability testing? And again, I'm assuming folks here may not be fully familiar with it, but if you are, feel free to just ask, right? Before that, why do usability testing, right? The way I think about it is like in today's world, like product is never truly built, right? You're like perennially living in beta. First, it's an idea, then it morphs into a prototype, then it's a product. But even when it's a product, it's very early product. You're always getting feedback uh, by folks, right? And when you're doing the feedback, right, you very rarely would get feedback on everything of everything. You'll try to get feedback on a specific workflow with a specific kind of user, and that in itself essentially is what usability testing is, right? You're not testing the user, you're testing the product. You're testing in your own product how easy is it to understand for the user in terms of product communication or the workflow or the benefits, right? If there are certain things you want your product to do, can the product do it, right? So that's essentially what it is, right? So some of the vernacular associated with it is also called user testing. It's a core part of the UX methodology. Often it is done in big companies by UX researchers, but increasingly in a lot of product companies, it can be done by researchers or designers or PMs. And the idea is just to get always have the feel of how users are testing the product, right? And like even a live example today, like we had a user who just signed up to Betafy like an hour ago, and he paid for us, and then he was trying to set up a session. And we have this concept of an observer link in Betafy, and he literally could not find it. So he wrote into us through our chat channel that, hey, where's your observer link? And that's an example of where usability testing not done properly. We have done it on a lot of other subtasks within the product, but that is something we missed, and it came through in the uh, in the actual product, right? So some of the important things to know while doing this is that when you're talking to users, they have to be representative, right? So don't talk to your most tech savvy or the most cynical. Try to talk to a bunch of different users. Good. It always helps to do it on the prototype, right? The main reason for that is in today's world, building the complete product and engineering it is very expensive, but you can mock things quickly in Figma. So if you build your concepts and screens in Figma and test that, that gives you like a lot of leverage before the full product is built. Yeah. Last part I want to highlight is it is a continuous process. It's not that, oh, I'm launching a big thing 3 months from now. Let me do a one complete study. You're like always improving the product, right? And hence the continuous process. And it's important to also, as you do this, share your findings with the rest of the team. Like those are some of the things that I want to highlight. Yeah. So I think the other question is why do it, right? It sounds like building product is already hard. There's so many parts of the process. Why add one more part? And I think there's a lot of vernacular out there about design thinking and best practices, right? But very concretely, if we strip it all away and think about the business outcome, right? If you're looking at delivering a good user experience, right? If you can fix something at the design stage, right? You would take $1 to fix it. But if you take something at the engineering stage, you would probably take $100 to fix it. So it just like from a business standpoint, it's a lot cheaper to identify whatever the issues were with your product early and fix them before they even going into code, because once it's into code, it takes a lot of effort to improve them. So by and large, usability testing can really help you uncover critical issues early. Now, the key constraint or the key nuance is how do you do it fast enough such that it doesn't delay your product rollout cycles, and so on. Right. Again, anytime anyone has questions, feel free to ask. But big picture, there are two types of usability testing, unmoderated and moderated. So unmoderated means that you don't get on a call with the user. You send them a prototype or a website, you define some tasks for them and let them use it on their own time. Moderated is when you actually get on a call with the user, watch how they use your product, take some notes, and so on. So that's the moderated concept. Both have their pros and cons, right? In unmoderated testing, the main pro is that you can get feedback from a large number of users because you don't have to be on the every single call. So if you want to get 100 people to use your product and see at the early stage what's the benefit, then unmoderated is good, right? Also, like when you're comparing small things like flow A, flow B, button A, button B, before it's in the live product, unmoderated testing is good. Moderated testing, on the other hand, is extremely time consuming. You have to sit with the user, right? But because it is consuming, the benefit is you can get into very, very detail, right? So imagine you're building a new product, there's a new workflow, and users are behaving in a way that you don't understand. On a call, you can ask them, why did they click there? Or what did they understand by that screen? And that gives you a lot better intuitive understanding of the product. So if you want to go deep, you want to really, really have a nuance for how people are thinking, moderate is the way to go. If you have built like a first version of the product and you're kind of iterating on that, then unmoderated could be good as well. So these are the things you have to use. Ideally, you should use a combination of both. Earlier, on when a project is difficult, moderated makes more sense. But as the changes are more incremental, unmoderated can work as well. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure how many people here have done usability studies as a project before, but in the old world, the old pre-COVID world, there used to be like a participant and a moderator, and then there will be people sitting behind a glass door as observers. And then there will be a camera pointed at the participant's face, camera pointed on the screen. It's a very funny, funky, and complicated setup. And then after the call, you try to combine them. But nowadays, more or less, everything's just moved to Zoom or Google Meet. So you just get on a call with people, get them to screen share, and then observe how they are interacting. And that creates its own set of issues as well. But it's interesting how by moving to the virtual world, people got away with a lot of setup issues that used to plague usability testing before, and now it's even more accessible than it was before. Yeah. So I think like I shared, there are a few elements of usability testing. There's the moderator who's like a facilitator who actually wants to get the feedback. Then there's the user who's giving the feedback. And it's important for the user to be representative. Usually you have prototypes of your product, but of course you can have live product as well. It's important to define tasks, right? Because if not, you're kind of going out to find things in the wild without a concrete goal. But if you have a usability task, in my product, okay, this works or this doesn't work, or this is the assumption I'm testing. So then you go and get the users to try that. And it's also good to have observers on the call. One, because they can be like they can help you take notes and make observations. But also sometimes the participant might say things are easy, but they might have a frown face, or like they might look confused, and an observer might be like better placed to note down some of these things. Yeah. I'll just take a pause here. Any questions so far, or should I keep continuing?
Usually the speakers will be continuing, and the Q&A session will be available later. So.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. So I think if when you start doing usability testing, let's say you have your prototype ready, you have your session ready, there are a few things you want to do, right? So first is that, like, okay, Eleanor is a skilled moderator, but there's also a lot of things about how skilled you are, and I think you get skilled with experience. But there's certain basic things that you can definitely do to make sure that the process is good, right? So first and foremost, and I keep reminding everyone about this, is to have a very clear goal of what you do not know, right? Usability testing is a time-consuming process, so it doesn't make sense to do it for every single thing that you don't know. So if there's a way to get data from other sources, whether from your product analytics or like even surveys or any other way, you should get that data. Usually where you need usability testing is from your data, a certain demographic of users that doesn't understand this, and you want to go into the depth and the why, right? But you should be very clear that this is what you're going to understand from this study. These are my 2 or 3 big assumptions, and then you go that, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, again, this is an exercise in like testing your product, not the user. And I would mention this again. So it's really important to like make them comfortable, right? Just think about yourself when you're using products in everyday life. You do it in a calm manner, so you don't want the user to be like hyper focused and do that. So one of my funny example was in the product I was building in Singtel called Gomo. We launched this new promo code feature where we got the users into the room, and we were doing usability testing, right? And then the moderator was aggressive and kind of almost made them find where the promo code feature was. And out of fear and with close attention, they all found it. And then we concluded that our design was like perfect. But when we actually rolled out the product, it was terrible because we were not making sure the users were comfortable and then just taking one glance at the product as they normally would. And it can lead to many misleading aspects, right? Typically, in a moderated usability, 5 to 7 sessions is enough. You can come up with your big insights or if from there. And I think the third part is don't go in there with this pressure that the user has to complete the task. You're just going there to find out the why, right? And the task is a way for you to get there. So it's important to just be open-minded. If your user doesn't like click or behave in the way you do expect them to, that's fine. Just follow along their brain. Try to understand why they did that instead of really caring about that they're not completing the task or whatever. So it's important to be detached. You're just an observer to understand, right? And it's important to like actively listen and observe to the things they say and the things they don't say, so that you're absorbing all of this information together. Cool. So in a nutshell, there are three big steps to it. First is you set your research goals. So what you need to do, what does the user need to do? That's number one. Number two is you bring in your Figma prototype or XD prototype. It's important to have the prototype ready and working, because again, if the call has a lot of technical issues, then it's like a big distraction, and you don't necessarily want that, right? And then third is you just have all the participant links and the observer links and all of that prepared. Cool. So we've spoken about why do usability testing, right? And we've also spoken about some of the tips of doing it well. The third part, I just want to share stories of our own experience while building Betafy, and how did this help us, where it did not help us, and so on. So this will be a more fun section, just storytelling time. Yeah, cool. So firstly, since we are building a user research startup, right? User research was really the heart and soul of Betafy in the early days. So very first before we started Betafy, like I was saying, we were in Gomo. We built this promo code feature. This is another promo code feature where we skipped usability testing. People people just, when they were transacting on Gomo, they could not find it. We had like massive like loss of revenue, like $20,000 in 1 month. And that was like shitty, right? Even my co-founder, who was working in Stripe, so he was an engineer, he was building Stripe for Malaysia at the time, skipped usability testing, had to rebuild the same flows three times, right? And ended up leaving the company because he thought, oh my God, why am I working on the same project? This is the idea, right? You avoid usability testing, you run away from issues, and you have to keep rebuilding and rebuilding it. So just do it, right? Second thing we did when we started this company, right? We wanted to make sure that it's not just our opinion. We spoke to about 300 plus users across India, Singapore, Indonesia, US. And after the first 50 to 100 odd interviews, we always used prototypes. We kind of sketched like, okay, this is how we imagine this module in Betafy to be. And then we will show it to users, ask them what they think, even when we had no product, nothing, right? And it was just to validate and uncover more and more things, because once people see certain things, it's a lot easier to visualize than necessarily telling them what they do. And another interesting thing we did was that at that time, we did not have our own thing ready for usability, but me and my co-founder used to spend hours testing competitor products to both get a sense of how the workflows are, right? What are the gaps? What are the things they are missing, right? What are the things they are strong at? Knowing both of them, why are they building things a certain way, just to get that flavor of not just reading their website or just watching their demo, but really using the product for 2 3 days each to get a deep sense of how it works. Yeah. Then then I would show you another first example of why we were building Betafy. So this is when we have started the company. We are about 6 months in. We have basic product, right? And then in Betafy high level, you can conduct moderated usability studies. So you can share your prototype, you can take notes, and you can synthesize information. So one of our customers said that, hey, like you can take notes, but I would want to arrange the notes into themes. And we were very excited, and we were like, okay, this is a no-brainer idea. Let's just go and build a Kanban within Betafy, right? Our engineers turned it around in 2 weeks, totally skipped usability testing 100%, because we were like, this is such an obvious idea. Our rest of our product is doing well. This is needed. Build it, right? We do usability testing for most of our modules. Skip this. When we launched it, we realized nobody was using it. Even those customers who had specifically asked for this idea were not using it. And we were shocked that like why their ask was like build it into categories and then We had built it into categories. They can drag and drop. We can drag and drop. So whatever they had said on those calls, we had all built. But what we realized, or we mistaken, right? They were very, very anchored to a Miro or a FigJam. They wanted a Miro or FigJam like functionality. Of course, they did not say that, right? But so when our whatever Betafy Kanban was like not definitely not as good as Miro, they saw like an inferior Miro. They instantly didn't want to use it, right? But we had spent the entire team's effort for 2 weeks just on building this, which in fact we had to chuck, and we threw away this whole piece of code, and we kind of ended up integrating with Miro just because we got too excited by the fact of building it ourselves and did not do basic validations in place, right? Then there were some cool ideas which we did do validations in where it helped us, right? For example, our old this is like a beta file live session experience. Our old version of the live session experience was not good, right? And we knew we had to revamp, but instead of rushing into revamping it, we got a ton of user feedback, right? And as a result of a ton of user feedback, we realized certain things that the actually the participant window is always there, but the note-taking window has to be nice and clear, and something you don't need onboarding for. You go there, you obviously know where the note-taking window was. So we kind of went to them again and again with different prototypes, even with early product and videos, so that we can kind of figure out what to build, how to build. Even things like observers, we have this observer mode within Betafy. Initially, we did not have the videos, but then the moderator felt that they did not know what was happening. So we introduced moderator like observer videos. Things like we have this thing called team chat and participant chat. We had called it observer chat, and again, it was unclear. So these are things we have kept iterating on with our users. Similarly, in the design at the bottom, this is our post-session experience. In this, originally, we had made the notes section very big because we thought notes are important, and they are. But what the user said was they had to see the video and the transcript together, as well as they want to see the notes very clearly on the timeline, right? So that they can scrub it. So actually the notes don't need a real big real estate. And those are things we have iterated. So again, because we got feedback early, we kind of iterated it within the product, and we didn't have to rebuild a lot. A last funny example was that we were very passionate about the dark mode thing for our live session experience, and actually people like this in general, so that was good for us. But one of the users, when we were showing very early version of it, said that while the live session having dark mode is cool, your welcome screen having dark mode is like horrible. It's so unwelcoming, right? And we were like, huh. So we started, instead of building this welcome screen, this is our welcome screen. We made 3 different concepts of the same thing: person, smiley person, join button, but these buttons, and then this. But one was with light mode, dark mode, playful mode, and everyone loved the playful mode, right? And then these are things you are like, it takes a bit of time. It does delay your product by 2-3 days, but then it just saves you all that effort later on. And that's why we have kind of made it like core to our product development efforts at Betafy. Yeah. So the other part that we do with Betafy is we realize that, you know, you can talk to a lot of users, you can get a lot of feedback, but it's really important to like make sense of that feedback, to synthesize it, to collaborate with a lot of different tools. So that's why we have set up the post session such that you can rewatch the convo, things are organized and so on. But it's also why, like, we strongly believe that usability testing is not just for the research function, the design function, but the org function, and the organization function will use a lot of different tools. And that's why we have kind of started embedding Betafy into them. So at the start of the session, you can bring in your Figma prototype. You can do the call on top of Zoom. So these are tools we are more familiar with. After the call is complete, you can export your notes to Miro because of our failed Kanban experience. We will very soon add FigJam as well. A lot of times we heard from users that clips of customer videos or customer struggles work delightfully well. So we allow them to export that clip as a public link or embed it in Notion, embedded on your website, wherever, right? So you can kind of get more and more embedded into the workflow, and that really helps improve the stickiness of the product. Yeah. So this is just like a last thing we just came out of stealth and we raised some funding. So I'm just sharing that with everyone here. So lastly, just want to end on this last story that has also come from usability testing. So when we were very, very early in Beta 5, maybe 1 year ago, we had built a live video platform and we were facing a ton of bugs. We were working very hard. The engineering team spent like almost 3 months bug bashing and bug bashing. And then it suddenly did not work, right? So some smart person along the way gave us this advice that why are you reinventing Zoom? Just build on top of Zoom. So we started building Beta 5 on top of Zoom, right? Along the way, some other smart person gave us this advice that why are you reinventing Miro? Build on top of Miro, right? So we did the integration. But now, over the time of this process of co-creating with customers, we have also kind of built ourselves as this cool middle layer that stitches tools together, right? So I'll show you this short video as an ending point. You can see my screen, yeah?
Yes, we can see
Okay.
your screen.
Yeah, this is just a 1 minute video. So we have an integration with Figma. We have an integration with Miro that came through different usability insights. But now, as a combination of building this together over time, this is becoming like a cool new USP, which we did not even envision when we started. Yeah. So just wanted to show you a little bit about how Betafy, the product, works, as well as this. But again, the insight to call out here was it is through doing an incredible number of usability testing sessions that we realized people really like Betafy, but they like these tools and they really care about their workflow, and kind of embedding in the workflow gives you its own advantage as a new product, right? So with that, I will stop sharing. I think I've had a long enough monologue and would love to take any questions.